From the War Diary. As dawn broke on Tuesday 26th February, the battalion had reached the area of Objective Copper. The area was littered with burning and destroyed tanks. The whole area was covered in a pall of smoke. In many respects, it was a bit like a scene out of a Hollywood film, but only this time, it was for real.
Now, we'd been told not to dismount. The whole point was we weren't going to dismount, we weren't going to fight on the ground, because we were armoured. Anybody in a trench would just be left behind after we'd gone over. They'd be in the middle of the desert. They could be picked up later and taken prisoner or whatever, so we weren't going to get out. So when we were told to get out, to clear these trenches, we were somewhat dubious that this wasn't the right thing to be doing, and we weren't meant to get out, and we questioned it twice. And the reason we were told to get out was because the soft-skin vehicles of the 14th, 20th were alongside us, and the company commander thought they were probably vulnerable to the soldiers on the Iraqi soldiers on the ground if we didn't get out and clear them. And there'd been a bit of an incident with a scimitar from the Iraqi platoon and a Milan mobile vehicle had an incident with a guy in a trench and ended up phosphorussing the trench, and Fusiliers Hussars in the MCTS had shot one of the guys who was firing it back out of the trench, and that was what led to this feeling that there were some people there that might try and fight back. I had a pistol in a holster, and then I had the rifle in the back of the Warrior. So the idea was jump off the back, open the back of the Warrior, and get rifles out. Eventually, Sergeant Barry said, "Sir, if we don't get out, they'll think we're afraid." So I think you're right, we better get out. So, which is why we got out. Normally, you'd expect to be able to duck down, open the cage behind the turret, and climb out into the back of the Warrior and go out through the back door. And because we had the Milan missiles there, we couldn't do that. So we had to get out over the top, and you do feel extremely vulnerable climbing out of a 9-foot high, 10-foot high Warrior, out of the top of the turret, and then running along the back and jumping off the back. So we did a 1, 2, 3, hatches open, jump out. And I got out and thought, the little bastard hasn't come with me. And then I looked back and saw he's got caught up on his webbing on one of the things that holds the cupola static, and he got his webbing caught, and he was swearing like a trooper in the Warrior, caught up by the back of his neck. We're not a rifle section, bear in mind, we're a Milan section, so we're not set up or planning to do infantry assaults on the ground. So we had, I think, dismountable about 12 of us, and so got out of the back, opened the back door of the Warrior, and I have to say, probably the coolest line I've ever said was, "Get the grenades out, boys, time to win some medals." So, which, with hindsight, was a good line. But, and we put the grenades into 5.56 ammunition bandoliers. So I got a couple of bandoliers of grenades. Everybody took another bandolier of grenades. And then Sergeant Barry, we had no radio communications with one of our vehicles. So Sergeant Barry had to run about 80 yards across the desert to go and tell the other vehicle what was happening. One of the other vehicles had already deployed. So the 3 vehicles with us on the ground. So we formed up into 2 pairs of a fire team, me and Wee Titch Low, and from the Queen's Highlanders. And then we said, right, you 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 move first, and you head off. That little system was a mixture of some just literally fire pits, 2-man trenches, and then some with bunkers that people had been living in for months. So the first one I crawled up to, very exciting, first time ever in combat, and crawled up to this slight sandy edge, which was obviously the spoil from the trench, and Titch Low firing at the trench while I crawled up to it, grenade out, hand over the edge, dropped the grenade in, thought it hadn't fallen very far, because I could hear it hit the ground as I dropped it, and I thought, dropped it on the edge of the trench rather than in. And then pulled my head back and waited for it to go bang, and it went bang. And then there was this shower of stuff coming out of it, and it actually wasn't a trench, it was a latrine. And my first moment of glory was bombing a latrine. And there was a fountain of crap, which luckily I was too close to that it didn't land on me. But Wee Titch Low got thoroughly spattered with 3 months of Iraqi shit. And his great line was, as he looked at me, newly camouflaged, said, "Aye boss, cheers for that." After that, it got better, and we actually focused on trenches after that rather than latrines. But the first grenade was definitely a latrine. And then I think he and I cleared five or six trenches, and the rest of the section cleared trenches around us. And we had the warriors firing at the trenches, and so the warrior chain guns firing at the trenches, and then we would crawl up to them. The warrior would stop firing, we'd drop a grenade in and then clear it. And some of them, as you looked over, you stand up and fire a burst of fire into the trench. Some of them would then be a bunker, and you then put in the second grenade into the bunker. And didn't go into the bunkers, just dropped grenades in and shot into the bunkers. One of them was very accurately firing at this trench that I was lying next to, and it hadn't stopped. And I thought, oh, he's obviously waiting for me to stand up. And so I stood up and it stopped. And I thought, that's brilliantly coordinated. And only later did I find out the Sergeant Lamond, who was one of the deck commanders, had gone back to the warrior, opened the back door, opened the cage of the warrior, and grabbed the bloke's leg because he hadn't stopped firing. got him to stop firing. So it was pure chance that it stopped. But it was, definitely the warriors are intimidating things, and with the chain guns firing, it was a fantastic support to an assault. When we finished that very short assault and cleared a number of trenches, I think 60 or 70 people surrendered from the further positions beyond. But they really generally wanted to give up.